Well, good afternoon, everyone, and listen, thanks for coming out for us today here at the Haumoana Fire Station. I just want to start by saying that again, we've seen Hawke's Bay, Wairoa, and Tairāwhiti having to deal with weather-related events that's caused flooding, damage, and evacuations. And I just want to say that I want to acknowledge the mayors and the leadership here in the Hawke's Bay, in Wairoa, Craig Little and Rahit Stoltz and her team up in Gisborne. They have responded quickly, they have stood up the teams. Ian, I want to acknowledge you and your team from your civil defence team. You responded early. The police evacuated over 200 homes last night here in Haumoana. Obviously, what aggravated the situation with the rain was the fact that there was a 6-metre swell that was battering the coast. So I want to acknowledge everyone involved, our first responders who have done an outstanding job and responded quickly to what was clearly developing into a local state of emergency. We are trying to I personally am trying to get up to Wairoa to provide support up there to get on the ground and see what they need. And obviously I'm here to make sure that from a central government level we are doing everything that we can and providing the resources that the mayors, that their teams, that the controllers need to make sure that we have the best possible response to the communities. I have got a discretionary mayoral fund. I'm able to go up to $300,000 on that, and I have already triggered that. So there'll be $100,000 coming to the Hastings Council, $100,000 to Wairoa and Craig Little and his team, and $100,000 to Gisborne, just to give them a bit of money in the initial response, and especially looking after those that have been displaced and having to be evacuated. With that, I'll turn to Her Worship Mayor Sandra, who can maybe add to those comments.
Kia ora koutou. I just want to acknowledge our community and everybody that stood up our community emergency hub last night and worked through the night to make sure our community was safe. Just the understanding and the support everyone gave each other. We had a practice a couple of months ago. 300 of our community from Haumoana and Tiawonga came and worked out how we would manage this, and it's fair to say that they've done an amazing job, and incredibly grateful to everyone's support.
How bad is the damage out there? Which parts are the worst damaged?
Well, it's the areas that are low-lying, and we've had one home flooded, but the issue has been that we clear all of the shingle away so we can clear the drains and keep the water flowing. We have had a breach in the crest where the stones comes and the ocean comes over into homes, but the teams are working really hard to fill in those breaches so we can keep everybody safe and dry.
And how long will the state of emergency last for?
We've got an emergency management meeting at 3 o'clock, and we'll have a full understanding of how long the state of emergency will be in place. There's a big tide tonight at 9 p.m. We have to respect what that would mean for us, that high tide, just like last night at 9 p.m. And as we saw, as the Minister just said, we saw 6-metre waves, and so we just being aware that it's about keeping our community safe and what that means. And we'll know more than 3 o'clock.
Sounds like that tide could be worse tonight as well, even slightly higher.
Well, you know, we thought the rain had eased off and we saw a little glimpse of sunshine earlier today, but the rain has been constant and steady all afternoon, so that lifts all our waterways, our lagoons, and that puts pressure on the whole coast. So it's just understanding how we'll manage to keep people safe through the night.
And Minister, what's the situation in Wairoa?
Yeah, I mean, so Wairoa, the community south of the bridge, from what I understand, have been hit hard this time. Most of the damage was north of the bridge, and it relates again to the sea surge and 6-metre waves. So once I'm on the ground, I'll be able to obviously get around and visualise and see exactly what the damage is. But the reports are they definitely have damage there. They've got people out of their homes in the Memorial Hall, and it's pretty catastrophic for them. They continue to get hit without a doubt. So getting up there now is my priority.
Do you know what the damage is? Is it to bridges, houses, infrastructure?
It's, from what I understand, it's flooding. So it is flooding. Relates to the river. Obviously, there's been a lot of water, come down the river, but also it's been exacerbated by the swell and those 6 metre swells that have been hitting right up the coast.
The power was turned off in Wairoa, turned back on. Are you expecting it to go off again as the swells increase?
Well, I think that the power has been controlled in terms of risk. So, and I would expect that to continue to happen throughout the day.
Some residents have attributed flooding in Wairoa to the bar not being lowered or opened earlier. Why couldn't it be opened earlier specifically by the Regional Council?
Yeah. Thank you, and just want to send our condolences to those in Wairoa, particularly the 3 young men who lost their lives while on boat. So we acknowledge their whānau today as well. So in terms of the bar, the last 36 hours, we've had contractors on site trying to open that mouth. It's quite complex. You need to open one, shut the other, because there are 2 pathways the river runs. So we have had contractors, they've had to stop being inundated and unsafe. But we know that in the last 3 hours that river has opened at the mouth, and that river flow is receding in the Wairoa River.
Are there any injuries at all?
I have had there's no reports to me of any injuries. Like I said to you, I think that what happened here is there was an immediate response. They stood up very quickly and responded very quickly, and what that means is you immediately reduce the risk to the community. I mean, the police overnight evacuated over 200 properties here. FENS, all of our first responders were out on the ground quickly. And that goes a long way to mitigating those risks around injuries or worse, a tragedy where you actually lose someone.
In terms of slips and road closures, can you tell us anything more about those?
All I know at the moment is that I can't get overland to Wairoa. That state highway is closed at the moment. I have heard that there is some slips, but obviously we'll get more information as it becomes available.
Have you got any details on the time when that road will reopen?
No, I don't. I have no information on that. They're working on it. Obviously, we'll try to get it open as quickly as possible because it is a lifeline to Wairoa. You can still get down to Wairoa from Gisborne, but we want to get that road open as quickly as possible.
What about the number of houses and Wairoa? Do you have any information about that? How many?
No, I don't have any information in terms of how many houses have been impacted, but I just saw some images of some homes up there that without a doubt are underwater, but I'll get a much clearer idea of that when I get on the ground in Wairoa and can get a briefing from the Mayor and our CDM team up there.
In terms of the quickness of the response this time around, is the quickness of this response due to the failings from Cyclone Gabrielle? Does it appear that Civil Defence has that?
No, I think it's definitely lessons learned. I just want to be very clear that the people that responded to Cyclone Gabrielle here were very, very good. They were let down by the process, and that was highlighted in Sajiri Mataparai's report to me. But the one thing that we've all learned is that it's better to get going early. And without a doubt, the Mayor, her team, and Ian, everyone has stood up early, and it makes a difference in the response. And I think that the feedback that we're getting from the community is that they feel safer and they feel secure, knowing that response is early.
And in terms of the infrastructure, are you worried? I mean, this region and Gisborne has a lot of fragile roads out there, not just the main highways, but a lot of the rural access as well. Yeah,
so there's a lot of work being done right now to sort of assess that, to see just how much damage there is to the roading network.
Regarding
events like these are particularly triggering for members of the community in the wake of cyclone.
No, listen, we have to recognise that, and a lot of the work that's going on is to make sure that we get the welfare support that's required, especially in Wairoa. Because they keep getting isolated when these things happen. But I know that I flew on a flight this morning from Wellington, and there was people on the flight that are locals here, and the anxiety levels start increasing immediately when you start to get situations like that, and it's only natural when you think about what's occurred.
And so what are you doing to reassure people?
Well, I think that the best reassurance I'd give you is that you've got an outstanding civil defence team, first responders and people in the community that have responded very quickly to make sure that the community is looked after and protected. And the other point that I'd make is that we're working very hard to make sure that there's welfare teams and there's support given to the communities that are affected.
You visited Wairoa early after the election, after they were calling out for more money. Residents there have told
our One News team that there has been a lot of talk and not a lot of action as nothing has changed. What's your response?
No, I don't agree with that. I think that Hawke's Bay, Tairāwhiti, Auckland, Masterton, Tauranga, the councils that have been impacted and affected, whether it be flooding events or Cyclone Gabriel, are actually moving quickly with the recovery. Of course, there's been a significant amount of government support that has been put into Wairoa, but I acknowledge the fact they have been hit hard, and the reason why I'm trying to get up there as quickly as I can so I can understand from a central government perspective what we need to do to help them right now with the response. But I'm also the recovery minister. I want to have a very clear idea in terms of what we need to do to help with the recovery as well.
It's been a tough 24 hours for the region. What have you been hearing from community members as to how they're feeling?
Well, I think coming back to the point that was made, there's a vulnerability there and there's an anxiety that's only natural when you continue to be hit with the weather events like these communities have. But there's also an incredible resilience as well. Sadly, I visited the Emergency Operations Centre here in Hawke's Bay. The dedicated people that stand up and know what to do, sadly, because they've had a fair bit of experience now with having to deal with things like Cyclone Gabriel. But I've just been hugely impressed by how quick the response has been and how good the work has been in the community from our first responders right through to our civil defence people and controllers.
Regarding early notice, the alarm on phones at 6 a.m. this morning, but people with their doors knocked on at 3 a.m. in Haumoana. Why couldn't the alarm go out earlier, the general alarm?
So that's an operational question. I don't have the answer for you right now. I mean, obviously, from a central point of view, we have the ability to be able to send those alerts out. There is a process that you go through to do that. But I just want to recognise what you've highlighted, and that's the fact that the local response was very, very fast in terms of knocking on doors and getting people to safety.
And in regards to the fishermen, what have you heard about the rescue operation off the coast?
Yeah, well, that is an awful tragedy, without a doubt. And not only does it affect the people of Gisborne, it affects the people of Wairoa as well. And talking with the Mayor this morning, he highlighted that all three of these men were characters. They're well known in their community, and it's just a complete tragedy. There was obviously a serious attempt to try and rescue them, and I feel for our Coast Guard crew that that did a valiant effort to try and get through what was atrocious weather conditions to try and get to them. It's just a tragedy all round.
Those conditions, have you heard a lot about what those crews were facing, those rescue crews?
Well, I mean, obviously they are well trained, they're professionals, they know how to operate in difficult environments, but I think you can see what we're dealing with here is a massive 6 metre swell, and obviously treacherous conditions, and those are that would have been a very, very tough decision. But at the end of the day, you don't want to have a double tragedy, but of course it's going to be hitting the communities very, very hard.
Has any of this weather event surprised civil defence or in any way, shape, in its size and magnitude?
No, I don't think so. I think that when you're dealing with Mother Nature in these events, you can clearly see that that's something that weather forecasts are not a perfect science, and things can change very, very quickly. And I think that's why, again, I acknowledge the Mayor, the Council, and our civil defence team that stood up very quickly.
Do you know if there's any risk to the substation in Wairoa?
I haven't had an update on that in terms of the substation in Wairoa. I know that the pump stations here were overwhelmed initially, but there's been some very good work done, and I think that they're back up and able to cope with the water that's coming through.
And Mayor Hazelhurst, quite a specific question for you, but one family I talked to that lives just next door to the fire station here said they've been complaining to the council for decades now about the drains and the need for them to be fixed. She said you promised you'd do that and you haven't, which is why her property's flooded. What's your response to that?
Well, there's a real vulnerability with our stormwater in Haumoana, and we've had submissions to our long-term plan, and our council has to consider, that along with everything else at the moment, and it's all pretty overwhelming, the vulnerability of our transport network, our waters, our local waters, and so, this is part of our process of, where the priorities lie, and there's an awful lot to do at the moment.
Seeing as her property's flooded again, will you be looking into this problem after this event?
Absolutely. In fact, in our long-term plan, there are two parts, Haumoana and Wairoa, that we are going to be considering, how we move forward to keep the community safe and protect them. But, the most amazing part was that, people decided to go and stay with friends and family. They understood, they knew what they needed to do, and they got on and did it. And so, that's people have got on with their lives here, and that's the resilience that our communities have faced, and that's the standing up of 31 new community hubs, which is fantastic, and the leadership that we're seeing in our amazing volunteer fire brigade here today, and all of these people work together, and that's we're all under civil defence emergency management. We're all responsible, and the community here is incredible.
Are you expecting any more evacuations over the coming hours?
No. So we still have the state of emergency in place, and as I said, the team will be working at 3 o'clock to understand all the technical, whether we leave the state of emergency in place or it gets lifted. But everybody's quite concerned about the high tide tonight at 9 p.m. and when that should be lifted. So those considerations will be made after this big meeting with all the agencies at 3 p.m.
Yeah, just around that as well, what's your message to the community over the next 12 to sort of 24 hours, particularly around that high tide tonight?
Well, I think just continue to check the CDM website for advice. Listen to the advice and please be compliant with our first responders out there that are trying to do their jobs, the contractors that are out there trying to do their jobs. And I just want to reinforce the message that the Mayor gave around in terms of us as a country responding to these things. Everyone has got a responsibility. And there's a lot of things that people can do to get themselves educated and prepared and know what to do and to take the correct actions when we're hit with these weather events. That's something in terms of resilience for us as a country. We know we're going to continue to be hit with these weather events. A big part of the work that we want to do from central government is around education, so that everyone can be best prepared. Personally, they can take some responsibility and be prepared and know what to do as well.
Speaking of education, over 20 schools have been shut today and more than 20 Kura as well.
Yeah.
Is there any likelihood of those schools opening tomorrow, or is that just assessed?
Look, again, there is an ongoing assessment being done in terms of we currently have 3 local states of emergency in place. All of them will have their own different issues that they have to take into account and deal with. But of course, if the schools are shut, it's purely for the safety of the pupils, and they'll be reopened as quickly as we can.
Minister, if you can't get to Wairoa tonight, what's your message to residents watching tonight as to how you're supporting them?
I just say that, look, although physically we can't be there, they are in the forefronts of our mind. We want to know what we can do to continue to support the current response, and certainly we'll throw everything that we can at from central government, and we're doing that. And of course, I will get up there. If I can't get up there tonight, I will make sure that I get up there so that I can have a clear understanding of what we need to do around supporting them with recovery as well.